Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la la la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom u'mevorach.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome. I'm Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined this evening by Rabbi Kleiman, Leslie, Warren, Joel, Larry, and our technical team. It's a lot of people for just one service, but it does take a whole village to bring this service to all of you here in person and joining us virtually. A big thank you to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls and to our digital docents who are managing our stream. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome Molly Hess, Program Director for the Priya program at JFS. And Molly will be leading our Beit Kenesset, our house of gathering, a little later today. That will follow our closing prayers. For those of you joining us here in person, we are calling the numbers in the square brackets. And also don't forget to turn off your electronic devices. We haven't had to say that for a while, and now we have to say it again, but it's okay. We have in person.
That's
good.
right. It's worth it.
So we join together this Shabbat. At home, if you have candles, we invite you to light them. And on page 120, together we join in welcoming Shabbat by lighting the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shel Shabbat.
Continue together in the middle of page 121. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring their offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Continue together on page 138 with Lecha Dodi. Just a reminder, do not please sit down at the end of Lecha Dodi because we go into the Baruch right after that, so please remain standing. We are joining together in stanzas 1, 3, and 9. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה.
שמוע וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, השם ותפארת בלי תהילה.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, ומצאים מתוך אף אחד, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עליכם בלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, Erev Shabbat, נקבלה. Page 146.
Yai lai lai lai,
Yai lai lai lai,
yai lai 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 lai,
Yai lai 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 lai,
yai lai 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 lai.
Yai lai lai lai, Yai lai lai.
Barechu
Barechu
et Adonai,
et Adonai,
Mevorach, Baruch Adonai,
Baruch Adonai,
Mevorach,
Mevorach,
Leolam.
Leolam, Amen. We continue together, page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto
לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Emet. Join together at the top of page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני,
Raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace.
Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and our coming, to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread before us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. The middle of page 162. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. Our service continues with our Amidah, our Tefillah portion of the service. We are on page 164, and I invite you to rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם וזרעת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We've now come to the section of our service where we sing our Misha Berach, a prayer for those in need of healing. You will find our Misha Berach list on your handout if you are here in person. If you are following along virtually, the link was in the e-news that we sent out this morning, as well as it will be in the Facebook chat. But for those of you who are here in person, if there's a name of a friend or loved one who you would like to share, I will invite you to share it in a moment. For those of you following along on Facebook, I invite you to type their name into the comment section and hit enter. For those who are here, please share any names on your mind. And on their behalf and on behalf of those who are in need of healing, we sing together the words found on page 371.
It is now time for our Simcha moment. If you are so moved, we invite you to share special Simcha, a joy from this past week by online. You can type the Simchas on Facebook Live in the comments line. May include your birthday, anniversary, good news, and accomplishments. Please return. For those of us here in person, you can come up to our Simcha microphone. There is an X on the floor. You can stand there and speak loudly and clear, and everybody here and at home will be able to hear you. So if you have a Simcha, you can come and share it there.
I'll do one while people are thinking about it. So I'm involved in this group Potluck Productions, and
that doesn't include food.
That does not include food. It's a potluck of theater, a potluck of plays.
Sorry.
And Beth Torah is the host location for our readings. It's women playwrights, whatever. I wrote, I should not denigrate it, but I wrote a short play that involves being Jewish and identity and a convert and what all that means. Nice. And it's going to be one of the ones being read this Sunday, so I'm very excited about that.
Wonderful. Yeah, our Simcha, I think for me this week was that we're short one person in the office full time. Tara went ahead to some other work, but the Simcha is that we did a wonderful teamwork the first day, beginning with an alarm at 3:45 in the morning, and I don't know what else. You may not know that we have
a fire in the parking lot.
A fire in the parking lot, an entire
phone problems,
an entire
dumpster. A truck emptied its contents onto the ground. I have pictures.
Burning. So
Molly
that was our first
day,
and we made it through those Simcha this week.
Teamwork made the dream
and then we had
the
first snow of the season, everything. Yeah. Anyway, so go team. Any other Simchas in here? And I say because most of us are around here, trying to do it. It was a team effort with lay leaders and our current staff. So for you, I have something slightly different. It's not a poem today. Some of you may have heard that I am a little bit of an opera aficionado, just a little bit. Now, there's a very famous, and again, I always have to be careful with this, but I think it's pretty famous. It's a Jewish composer of the 20th century from Vienna. His name was Arnold Schoenberg, and he died in 1951. He was a Jewish composer, and he was targeted by the Nazi Party, which labeled his works as degenerate music and forbade them from being published. So he immigrated to the United States in 1933, and he composed an opera. He did not finish it before he died, but it was kind of completed after that, called Moses and Aaron. And it's about this week's Torah portion, which is the golden calf and all the conflicts between the two brothers who kind of have different ideas of how you worship God. You know, Aaron kind of like gives in to the crowd that says, build us a God, because Moses is gone. So it's all in German. If you have a chance to hear it, you can Google it. There are tons of things on YouTube. Even if you don't know German, I think you can sense, to me, he really did a wonderful job. It's all atonal, so it's going to be difficult to hear too. But if you can pass that, it's just the ambience of what it could have been in the desert when all this happened. You know, everybody talking, everybody complaining, and it's a great kind of atmospheric opera. And he knew his midrash, so he wrote as part of his, you know, a lot of modern music, they need to explain it to you. It just doesn't come naturally. So he wrote some explanations on Moses and Aaron, and many of them are based on the midrash. So in this section is found in actually our Torah commentary, the Plaut Chumash that you have sometimes right in front of you, but we're not going to read it from there. I'm just going to read it for you, and it's called The Contrast. So Schoenberg writes, while Aaron wants to express the idea of God by an understandable image, Moses demands unconditional surrender to an almighty, invisible deity. Aaron is convinced that the people will not believe in a God that they cannot see. It is the clash between the ideal that the crowd needs to worship and the pure idea of deity, the collision between corporeality and spirituality. Upon Aaron rebukes him because the tablets could have helped Israel's faith. I know you're going to go run now and Google Moses und Aaron, and I want to hear a report next week.
That's a fun Friday night.
That's a simcha. We now gather all our simchas and we share a special prayer. Divine source of blessings, we thank you for everything, including opera that enriches our lives. We turn to you now with gratitude as we share the happiness of those who have come forward to mark their birthdays, anniversaries, good news, and accomplishments. Adonai, be with them now and always. May they be blessed with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow, and with much health and happiness now and always. As we honor each one of you for the gifts that you bring to our sacred community, together we join in song to mark this sacred occasion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Our service continues on page 586 with Aleinu L'Shabech. If you're able, please stand and join us.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leot sher breshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. As we prepare for a moment of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 593. Join together at the top of the page. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O God of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. As a congregation, we have heard of the passing of Lola Fairchild, mother and mother-in-law of Beth and Jim Riker, and grandmother of Sam and Will Riker. We are observing the Shloshim period for Michael Levine, loved one of Sheila Goldberg, Sue Miller, sister of Linda Gephardt, Irv Krasnopoller, father and father-in-law of Mitchell Krasnopoller and Susan Cohen, and Miriam Fern Northrup, grand-aunt of Elizabeth Lentz. And on this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzites of members of our congregation: Ruth Adler, Sylvia Beckerman, Jean Ballot, Isidore Berger, Meyer W. Mickey Brown, Stephen Lawrence Brown, Beatrice Feynman, Myron Garfinkel, Marvin Gray, Ronald G. Hayings, Rose Hoffman, Sidney Clegg, Annabelle Lentz, Abraham Levitt, Marion Elizabeth Mitchell, Noam Minkowski, Arlene Plasmeyer, Dorothy Poslavsky, Rose Francis Romeo, Lucille Rubin, Samuel Sader, Leah Shaw, Saleh Turk-Trainen, Helen Wolf. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. Together, we join in Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמה דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל ישראל
All right, good evening and Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. It has been quite a week, quite a cold and chilly week. It was beautiful earlier in the week, and then we had 2 snow days this week. And so anyone who has school-aged children or is close with a family who has school-aged children knows that it has been quite a week. I joked earlier that my simcha moment was making it through 2 snow days with a toddler at home. But one thing that led me to be grateful for, though, is having a family here in the Kansas City Jewish community. And in that spirit, it's my pleasure to invite Molly Hess this evening to join us on the Bima. Molly is the program manager for Priya, a program of Jewish family services. Prior to working with families who are facing infertility, Molly ran Tribe KC for several years, creating community, social opportunities, and professional development for Kansas City young professionals. Over the course of her career, Molly prides herself on her ability to community organize and create safe spaces for people in vulnerable places. Molly has 2 kids, Lucy, who is 3.5, and Henry, who is 10 months old. When she isn't busy with them, she enjoys cooking, exploring the wide world of pizza with her husband, John. Sounds a lot like what my husband, John, would like as well. And finding new creative outlets. So it's my pleasure to invite to the Bima this evening, Molly Hess.
I guess we share the same simcha, making it through snow days. They're so special and filled with encanto in our house. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. I am so beyond happy to be here and feel honored to speak with you about Priya and the wonderful work that we do. As I was preparing for tonight, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the past 2 years. I was sort of joking with Rabbi Kleinman that this is the first time I've had to put on anything that's not yoga pants. So thank you for that. But I also was thinking about all the gamut of emotions we felt in the past years. We felt joy and sorrow. We felt celebration and grief. And in many ways, the trauma of the past 2 years really encapsulates our life cycle experiences. When we think about building Jewish families and Jewish homes, the first emotion that comes to mind and should come to mind is joy. I'm so glad there's tissues up here. And for some of us, this emotion will guide the path to parenthood. However, for many others, there's a roller coaster of grief that will guide their path. And this is where Priya can help. Priya comes from the word to be fruitful, and the program was brought to Kansas City in 2015 by Annie and Rabbi Glickman. We are here to provide emotional and financial support to families facing infertility and family building challenges, and to help educate our community and break down the stigma of infertility. Over the past 7 years, Priya has helped over 35 families welcome over 24 babies to the Kansas City Jewish community. In the past year, we gave out over $35,000 in grants and aided 13 families in building their Jewish family. And in the past 6 weeks, we welcomed 3 babies. So it's been an adventurous time. And while it is so easy to celebrate these babies, it is also so important to remember the struggle and to recognize the struggle that many of our families face. 1 in 8 families will experience infertility, and 1 in 4 pregnancies will end in miscarriage. So take a look around, or the proverbial look around if you are on social media. Think about the families in your life and your friend groups and the people you know. With statistics like this, it is almost guaranteed that whether you know it or not, you or someone you know has experienced this pain. So much like everything we do in Judaism, let's talk about it, right? Let's recognize it. Let's bring it to the table. And often when we talk about infertility, we don't. So it's important that we have these discussions. When we discuss family building challenges, it runs the gamut from infertility to adoption to choosing to be a single parent. There are all of these emotions and struggles. Sadly, as I mentioned before, a leading emotion can be grief. By the time a family seeks fertility treatment, they have most likely been trying to have a child for over a year. Think about those constant up and downs, the hope and the loss. When you approach a person or a family who is suffering from infertility or is facing these challenges, go into those conversations with solemnity and seriousness, for that's what they are living, that's their truth. These families have lost time, they've lost money, some have lost relationships and innocence around the idea of raising a family. Priya can help by providing resources, guidance, and support. But how, as a community, can we be more supportive to these families? Well, lucky for you, I have a very long list of suggestions. So first and foremost, know who you are supporting. Literally, I hope that you know the person, but I also hope that you understand who they are. Do they need a person who is a fixer, or do they need an ear to hear? I am a person who is a fixer. So generally when I have a problem in life, I just need someone to listen to me because I can fix my own problems. But I also know that I have friends and family who are the opposite. Second step is always, how can I best support you? What can I do for you to help you through this? Can I bring you food? Would you like me to be the point of contact to friends and family so you're not having to make a ton of phone calls? My favorite thing to offer, send me a text message, leave me a voicemail ranting to the world. I will delete it and never listen to it, but you can get your feelings out. Learn the lingo. When you're talking about infertility and adoption and processes of treatment, there are so many different words and medications and processes and things that you learn about. And it's important to know that when you're working with a family or when you know a family or a friend facing this. It's hard to repeat yourself over and over again, and it's hard to explain yourself, and sometimes it can feel burdensome when you're repeating over and over again. On the other hand, also don't ask too many questions. Sometimes when, as the support people, we think asking questions is helpful. Let's think through this together, right? Let's talk about it, blah, 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 blah. But that can feel berating or interrogating to a person going through it. And people don't want to be judged. They don't want to feel like they're being judged. They just want you to listen. But it's also okay to ask clarifying questions. That is also incredibly important. Another tip that I always like to give is to avoid toxic positivity or optimism. Everything happens for a reason, right? We hear that one a lot. It'll all be okay. It'll happen when it's supposed to. These are all things I hear very commonly, and they feel very harmless and slip out of our mouths so easily. But the truth is, they can sound very hurtful on the receiving end. Not everything happens for a reason. There are many medical things that can be unexplained. It might not be okay. This might have been a person's last embryo or their last dollars dedicated to this procedure. It might not happen at all, not even when it's supposed to. Having said all of these things, it's also okay to be hopeful. It's also okay to be positive and to hold a hand. A few more things to avoid because there's a lot. Avoid putting pressure, intentional or unintentional, on a person or a young couple. You might see someone at Oneg sometime and say, like, Mazel Tov on your wedding. When are you going to have kids? I hear a lot of giggles, which means I'm sure that's happened. But you don't know their story. Maybe they've been trying. Maybe they just experienced a loss. Maybe they don't want to have kids. There's all sorts of things out there in this world and all sorts of experiences, and we need to greet everyone as if they're going through it and understand where people are coming from. Lastly, avoid comparing, sharing, or giving unsolicited advice. I've heard a lot of, well, when I was your age, or, you know what, my friend just ate a lemon, hopped on one foot, and stood on their head, and like 5 seconds later, they were pregnant. None of which is true, obviously. I like to use very extreme examples. But by sharing too much, or by comparing or saying, did you hear about your cousin, or did you hear about your sister, or so-and-so who I take body pump with, at the J, showed up with this big belly. Like, that just might not feel good. And you don't know who's listening, and you don't know who's hearing, or how it's coming across. So, at the end of the day, let's just treat everyone as if they need a hand to be held and an ear to be listened, an ear to listen. So what are things that we can do? I know I gave you a long list of things not to do. So what are the things that we can do to support families as they grow? I think the most amazing thing we do as Jews is we show up all the time, even maybe when it's not wanted. We call each other out. We say each other's names at Misha Beirach. We say each other's names at, Mourner's Kaddish. We make sure that our stories are known and told. So show up. Show up with food. Show up with a text message. Don't expect a response, but sometimes just a little heart emoji might go a long way for someone. Show up with open arms, with an open heart, with open ears. Be ready to validate someone's emotions, feeling the feelings that they're feeling. Sorry, that's a lot of feelings in one sentence. And don't sweep those under the rug. Really sit with them. Really sit with that person. The best thing you can do is be an advocate when no one is looking. You might be at the J, or you might be at Oneg, or you might be at the grocery store, and you hear someone kind of saying something uncomfortable. Step in and say something. It's so important to show up, even when people aren't looking. And we feel that way about so many other topics in this world. And I think infertility and family building challenges are right there with it. Support does not have to be a grand gesture. It doesn't even have to be a deep conversation. It's being there at the right time. Priya is completely funded by our community. The grants we give to our families and our clients are completely from donations from individuals and individual community support. It's really an incredible thing, and I think it's the most beautiful thing about our program. It's really the community as a whole, uplifting the community as a whole. And I think that's just so incredible. And, Priya is here always for anyone. We support all Jewish families, no matter what you look like or what they look like. And we strive to always be there at the right time. Thank you so much for having me. Shabbat Shalom, and I've heard that there's going to be some Q&A. So if anyone has a question, I'm happy to answer.
And folks can ask online as well. We have our docents watching, so if you're online and on Facebook and you want to ask a question, you can type that in, and Dave will let me know. And if anybody has a question here in person, I will repeat it so the people at home can hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no judgment if you don't have questions. I'm very passionate about Priya. You can get my information in a billion different ways on JFS, from Rabbi Kleinman. There's many, many ways to access me.
If the people at home didn't hear, you can ask questions online and I can relay them because my microphone was hanging on my collar and not up by my mouth.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
You have your own
I
microphone.
have my own microphone. I can ask a question. Referrals.
Yes.
You know, I know rabbis could, but could just anybody? And how do you do it in a way that is not like
Yeah.
you should be having a family now and here? You need to go talk to these people.
Absolutely. So I fully believe that knowledge is power.
Okay.
So I think that, you know, especially someone in your position who might be doing premarital counseling, having, and I can get you some, having a Priya flyer available before a family might even, you know, knowing that Priya exists before ever needing it, I think is the key, which is why I'm kind of on this marketing. You know, I'm trying to get out there more to talk about Priya because you don't know what life's going to bring you. You don't know what you might face. And Priya offers lots of things beyond just infertility and beyond counseling. We also offer low-cost genetic testing, which any young couple or individual really should be doing. The more you know about your own body, the more educated decisions you can make about your future. So, so I think having it as part of the premarital package, as you do counseling that way, I think that's a great way. If you hear out in the community, or you have a family member or a friend who you know is struggling, or a congregant who you know is struggling, it's totally valid to say, I am so sorry you are going through this. But just so you know, Kansas City is incredibly special because we have this organization here that can help. And when you are ready, here's the information.
Are there any restrictions geographically?
Yes, so with Priya, we have restrictions geographically, but in terms of resources, I am connected to a much larger network of Jewish fertility, which is really incredible resources throughout the country. So I have access to people all over and will happily help anyone.
You mentioned grants. So is financial aid, financial help something that Priya offers?
Yes, so Priya offers financial assistance. We give grants as small as $1,500 and as large as $10,000. And for those who don't know, especially fertility treatments, the average cost of IVF in Kansas City is $35,000. So we cover some of that. We also have, there's also interest-free loans that we can help with as well and help you receive. But yeah, it's incredibly expensive. Adoption can go up from there. Surrogacy can go up from there. So it's building a family, unfortunately, can be so expensive. And I think there's only 17 states that actually include fertility treatments as part of their insurance plans. Unfortunately, Kansas is not one of them. And I think Missouri has some restrictions on it. So I have a big soapbox I could get on, and I won't. But yes, so the majority of what we do, a big portion of what we do is financial assistance.
So, and it sounds like you also pursue many avenues, right? Not just fertility treatments, but adoption or...
Yeah, we'll support families who are looking at adoption, who are looking at surrogacy, depending, and it doesn't have to be, sorry, let me find the right words, medically diagnosed infertility. We will help you if you say, you know what, I just don't want to carry a baby. That's a lot. I'd rather adopt. There are so many children out there who need love. let me be a person to love a child. We are happy to help with that process as well.
A couple more questions.
Of
One,
course.
do you have a list of insurance? Like, if I were to call and say, oh, I don't know if my insurance covers this, or can you tell me where I should go for insurance? Do you have lists of who covers?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not, because it is so individualized, and it is insurance to insurance and state to state, unfortunately. So, like, for example, you might live in Kansas City, but you might work for a national company and your insurance comes from California. And that kind of makes things a little bit more complicated. So it's really working with whoever your insurer is.
And then let's say I am interested in being a surrogate. Will Priya tell me who to talk to be on that side of it?
Whoever wrote that, you are Lamed Vavnik. Okay. Yes, I cannot connect you to a family, but I can connect you to an agency.
To the agencies, right,
Yes.
right. Okay. Any other questions online? Oh, this is so wonderful that we're talking about this out loud. Thank you.
Yeah. And the more we talk about it, it's just so important to talk about. The more we talk about it and the more we talk about our struggles. I mean, we talk about all of our other struggles, right? Like, we complain about everything. It's in our DNA. Like, let's talk about it all, right? Like, let's put it all out there. And there's no shame around it. There's no, the best thing we can do is be open books and to learn more and educate ourselves. So
I have a question about that, about how we talk about it.
Yes.
So in terms of terminology, and I know that every generation has their own, this generation's words are now taboo, and these are the preferred, politically correct words that we use today.
Yes.
Could you give us some of the terms maybe that we should avoid when trying to support someone, or words to use instead? I'm thinking of like the question of, oh, you're not having kids, who has the problem?
Right.
Things of that. I mean, because people use that language. So how can we be respectful and still engage in conversation?
Yeah. So I think terms, I think instead of saying they have infertility, I think that's a big one, or it's they're suffering from, or they're going through. It's not, it's not something you have. It's not something you want. It's something that's kind of happening. So I think that's a big one. I think, asking who's the problem. Just don't do that. Just don't. I'm trying to even think. That's the hardest question yet. I think it goes back to how you approach, and I think that's really what it is. I think starting that initial conversation, when you don't ask, when are you going to have children, right? When you don't ask, when you don't ask those kind of hard, pressing questions that might put people on the spot, that's kind of when I think we actually open the doors. When we sort of close off some of that language, we open the doors for conversation. I think also generationally, it is so important to talk about this. I know that as soon as I started having children, that's when my mom's generation started saying like, oh, well, this happened to me and this happened to me. And it's like, well, as I'm going through struggles, like, it would have been nice to know some of this stuff ahead of time. Like, there's some things that I think we just don't learn, especially as young women, before going through these processes. And to know what your genetics are and to know kind of what your family's been through can only help you, learn. So, sorry, I know that was like a very roundabout way of not exactly answering your question, but I think it's, not accusing people, not not blaming people for not having children, I think is a big part of it too. I think that there is sort of this, expectation, especially in, I think, religious communities in general, no matter what your flavor is, like, you grow up, you get married, you have children, you raise them in the community, they grow up, they go to summer camp, they meet someone else, they get married, they have children, and the cycle continues. And often that cycle's being broken a lot, and we don't talk about it. It's been broken for years and generations. And so I think, taking that expectation away, I think will really help open the conversations. Okay, well, thank you all so much. Shabbat Shalom.
Sure. Or do you want to?
You didn't think you were going to get out without announcements, did you?
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. One more time. First, thank you to Molly Hess for teaching us how to be advocates and allies to those struggling to build their families in our current world here in our area. We look forward to continue supporting the critical work that Priya does in our community. Special thanks to our worship team, Leslie, and all the musicians, and also to our technical team, Dave Zucker and Peter Pizer, and our Shalom squad, Scott Franklin, Lauren Aronson, Richard Standridge, and Paula Frimmerman for making this service possible.
Shabbat celebration continues tomorrow morning with Sichat Shabbat, our Shabbat conversation. It is multi-access, and then we have, that's at 9 a.m., and then we have services at 10:30 a.m., also multi-access.
No.
Oh, and later this weekend, join me
sorry.
here for Potluck Productions, Sunday, 3 p.m., $5 at the door. There will be adult content if you content. Said that last
Again,
time.
every time
There
she
is
announces, she says there's going to be
there is no adult
and I haven't
contact.
come yet because I'm afraid what could happen.
It's adult content. Just read the next one. No, there's not food. Okay, believe it or not, Purim is in 1 month. I feel like it's right now. Beginning on March 16th, we have many, many, many Purim festivities inside and outside of the building, including 1,
It is our Mishloach Manot assembly and delivery.
2,
Community-wide Purim events at Children's Mercy Park, home of Sporting Care C at Casey. That's on March 17th at 4 p.m.
3.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
that was 2.
They don't know the order. Virtual Hametz
Tashing is
Bake.
coming up.
Oh my gosh.
We cannot wait for Purim, I can tell you. What do we have last, but not least?
We will conclude next Shabbat with our virtual dinner and show on Saturday, February 26th. It'll be Havdalah and dinner and a magician, family-friendly. It is virtual streaming only, but come join us for a light-hearted evening. And thank you to a fellow Beth Torah member for sponsoring To Go Neg this evening so that all of us can experience Oneg Shabbat, the joy of
Thank
Shabbat.
you, everybody. This concludes our time together. Shabbat Shalom. And please, those of you here in person, don't forget to pick up a Tugoneg piece of something delicious on your way out.
Take care of
Thank
each
you,
other out
everybody.
there.
Shabbat Shalom.